Estate and Mortgage Show, your go-to spot for everything home buying, selling, and financing on News Talk 580 CFRA.
Welcome to the show, everybody.
Welcome.
What an amazing, stunning day. Except for you must be disappointed, birthday boy, back from your beach time, eh?
Back from San Diego. It was such a great trip. Just Petra and I went and...
it wasn't a conference?
This one was not a conference. This is every year for my birthday, I go away. Petra
You still write it off, though, right? Because you show up at a real estate office, talk to somebody for 5 minutes. It's like, I did some business.
I talk real estate, yeah. But this year we went to California. A lot of times we'll go to Florida. We went to San Diego and spent some wonderful time there. Did a lot of walking on the beaches. Weather was San Diego.
It's the best.
The best weather.
Well, it was the same. As it always is.
It's funny.
Right?
I was there in January for a conference, and I said to the Uber driver, I said, this weather is ridiculously perfect. Is it sunny every day? He's like, every day. Yep. And I'm like, what's it like in the summer? Right, what you're looking at right now. It's perfect like this every day. So we had maybe a little bit of cold at night sometimes, like a little bit chilly, like you'd have a little light sweater on. But during the day, beautiful and sunshine the whole time.
Well, you had a good birthday, though?
Great birthday.
Awesome.
Birthday. Yeah, you only turned 52 once. Hey, Frank, that was a long time ago for you.
Long time ago, but you're getting closer to that junior, senior discount at Shoppers. You're probably getting carded already.
I get it all the time
you're
now. When I go into,
so
you're a senior, correct? I'm like, yes, I'm a senior. Give me my discount.
They don't even card
I'll take
you,
the discount.
Yeah, they don't even card them anymore.
No.
They don't card you either, Greg, I'm sure.
The gray and the beard.
Gray and the beard gives it away,
helps a lot. Yeah,
I can tell you
sure.
one thing, though. I do... Every single place we went to, like different little villages in San Diego, and I always check out the real estate. And I know Petra got, every time we went to, she got a book, whether it was in Coronado, whether it was in, Pacific Beach or La Jolla or one of those. The real estate, I don't understand how people are affording to live in these places. We went in, we were driving through the hills in La Jolla, and if anyone knows La Jolla, it's like, the cat's meow of neighborhoods, right? It would be like, bringing one of Ottawa's top neighborhoods here. And there was an open house. So she's like, let's go through the open house. And I'm like, so I'm that guy who's kicking tires and going to waste this guy's time. But the door's wide open. You walk in. All you see is a view of the ocean. Oh. And it was a complete fixer-upper. Complete. Like, ugly, ugly, ugly.
And?
$6 million. $6 million.
San Diego, though, right?
No,
San Diego and San Francisco. I've been to San Francisco, too. Extremely expensive city. Housing is...
But what do you have to do to work? Like, what job do you have that a fixer-upper is $6 million?
You don't have a job. You're a millionaire. That's basically what it is.
The guy did say that it's a lot of generational money. Mom and dad, grandparents lived here. They passed it down to mom and dad. Mom and dad passed it down to you. Right. And then those people are selling. Because I'm like, someone's selling a $6 million home. Like, $6 million in Ottawa is like one of the top homes in Ottawa, right? Like,
I don't know in 21 years of shooting that I've ever shot a $6 million home.
Right? And this was a fixer-upper for $6 million.
Yeah.
Like, now, the view was like out of a postcard. Like, it was it was gorgeous. But, yeah, and I was talking to the real estate agent because I told him who I was. I said, I'm not wasting time. I mean, I am looking for a place in either California or Florida for the winter months. But... So I said, I'm not wasting your time. But we started talking. We were talking about the Ottawa real estate market compared to the California real estate market. And he's like, so, what would this house be in Ottawa? And I'm like, probably about $450. And he's like, what? And I said, probably about $450,000, maybe $500. And he's like, oh. And I'm like, there's a big difference. I said, do you sell anything under $1 million? I could see him like thinking.
He's trying to find one.
He's trying to think if he sold anything under $1 million. And I'm just like, wow, must be nice to be selling all these, multi-million-dollar homes.
But it just shows the extremes. I mean, you talk about here, and even 450, 500, I think is too much. You can go to Italy, parts of Italy. You can buy a home that's got that same postcard view for like 200,000 euros, which would be like just over 300,000. 3-bedroom, overlooking beautiful water, beach right there, and of course, incredible food. It's crazy to look at. Like, even a city like ours. Listen, Canada's beautiful and stuff, but, I'm not going to compare Canada to Italy. I mean,
no.
If I had to live somewhere, I mean, the food, the everything, the tax system, everything is so much better in Italy than it is here. Yet, we're paying significantly more for a house here than there, and it doesn't always make sense.
It's
There's
funny.
No common sense.
It's funny how different cities, because I go to the States a lot for work, I've seen almost every city in the States, and you go to California, to La Jolla or to San Diego, and you see this fixer-upper for $6 million, yet you can go a little bit over to Texas and you could get a palace for, $1 million, palace, and then you go, somewhere to the Midwest and like $1 million is like the cat's meow of homes. Yeah. Yet on some places it's just not. And I know there's areas like that in Canada too, right? I mean, you look at Toronto, you look at Vancouver, and they're a very expensive real estate market. And then you have, the Ottawas, the Montreals, the Edmontons, a much more affordable market.
Well, I think that brings to the point that, like, a lot of times all we ever see is national news about the real estate industry, keeping in mind that every market is very specifically different, exactly as you're outlining.
I don't even look at the national. I mean, I'll look at it as a blink, but you can't even look at that when someone says, hey, how's the Canadian market? Well, which market? I mean, it's like saying in the States, how's the American market? Yeah. Well, it depends. Are you buying in Detroit or are you buying in San Diego? You know? So when
Flin Flon, Manitoba, or the Bridle Path in Toronto?
Right. So if someone asks me about the Canadian market, I'll gloss over it and tell them, it's here's what's happening a little bit in the Canadian market. But I'm like, I'd rather pinpoint Ottawa, and then even when you get into Ottawa, there's a big difference between, Vanier and the Glebe. There's a big difference in Ottawa. So you have to, even when we're doing comparables, sure, you can look at, the macro of Ottawa, what the market's doing. But where is your house specifically is the micro part of the market, which you have to hone down on. And it's just fascinating getting back to a little bit. It's just fascinating how different parts of the cities, different parts of the countries, and different parts of the North America, the prices are just so different everywhere you go.
Well, the good news, I think, is obviously we're launching our podcast shortly, coming soon, and we'll touch on the country because, again, our goal is to focus on mortgage and real estate in Canada. I mean, this show is mostly about Ottawa, but I think our podcast, we're going to widen the lens a little bit. Yep. And look at other parts of the country, and
just
we'll
educate.
have guests in. We'll have guests in. We'll have economists that'll give us some updates on what's going on in the country. We'll still focus on Ottawa, obviously, because that's our expertise. But we'll get some real estate agents in. Paul's got lots of contacts across the country. I'm sure that something's going on in a major city. We'll have them as a guest on our podcast and talk about those.
Yeah, like I would love to know what's really going on in Vancouver. Mm-hmm. What's really going on in Calgary. Like tell us a story about what's going on. So the podcast which we're starting is coming probably the end of May, early June. Early June we'll probably start it. Real Estate and Mortgage Show on YouTube. Real Estate and Mortgage Show on YouTube. You can go there, subscribe. You'll get some tidbits and some snippets of what's to come, and once the show's live, we're ready to go. So probably early June, I'd say, or late May, early June, we'll be starting it.
And of course, if you have questions or guest suggestions, you can head over to realestateandmortgageshow.com and submit your suggestions or questions there, and we'll either answer them on the show here or we'll line up some great guests for the podcast.
Well, I got a few suggestions too. I think I got a few emails with some suggestions of people to bring in, which I think are great ideas, actually.
Yeah, so tell us who you want to hear from, and we'll try to get them on the podcast for sure. Yeah. So speaking of affordability, inflation numbers.
That's the number one topic. So I'll tell you, I was at a conference in Toronto on Wednesday, Thursday, and the TD chief economist, Derek Burleton, was there, and the word, that I heard the most is affordability. All of a sudden, that's become the key word because that's what Canadians are struggling with. So they're struggling with the fact that despite the fact that interest rates that start with a high 3 or low 4 historically are good rates. Today, unfortunately, they're not good rates because of the cost of everything else and stuff that's been out of the control of Canadians. So again, I mean, that word came up. Derek's not wrong. I mean, he made a point. He goes, as much as inflation's probably going to tick up because of the oil prices and the conflict that's going on with the U.S., the government has to look at this. Bank of Canada's got to look at this and say affordability for Canadians is important. And either keeping the rates similar or raising them is out of the question. And I think the same thing. I think that rates have to come down to help Canadians get across this finish line. We have to be able to help. I think the government's done a great job once the clarity comes around. He mentioned the same thing. And Vasi Capellos was a guest at our conference as well in Toronto. And she was hoping to have the housing minister. I didn't see whether she had the housing minister on Thursday night. But at the same time, she was gonna ask him the question, like, where is the clarity in this HST rebate on new builds? Now, the HST is very big in Ontario because it's been passed in Ontario. I think there's work being done in the other provinces for home building as well. Right now, it's just a GST in other provinces where Now, Quebec introduced something about the land transfer tax, so they went into, I think it's $7,500 that now there's the rebate. Of course, we're pushing Ontario to get that to $8,000. But at the same time, I mean, the affordability word is the key. The inflation came in elevated, expected.
Not unexpected, right? With everything
Totally
going on in the
expected.
Middle East, gas. It's all based on gas prices
It's all.
mostly, right? Fuel.
Everything is oil. Everything else you look remains stable. And food went up, ticked up. But again, food's as a result of oil prices going up.
They're directly
But
related.
you talk about affordability. It's one of the biggest problems with affordability is, yes, everything around us is so expensive nowadays. Inflation is going to go up. The rates have to come down, but shovels have to go in the ground too. Like I know right now, I've talked to Charles from Clement Homes. He is going through a nightmare trying to get permits and shovels in the ground with the city because all levels of government are just, no one knows what the other one's doing. And it's a nightmare trying to get shovels in the ground. And when you go to some of these major builders, they don't have any inventory. Like there's no inventory out there. So unless we can get shovels in the ground and get homes built, affordability is just going to keep getting higher and higher and harder. It's going to be harder and harder to get into a home.
And
they all want the same thing.
They want to build.
They all want the same thing, which is building homes, but they all put obstacles in the way.
Oh, yep.
They all kind of interfere with each other, and there's got to be a way for them to all get on the same page once and for all, and let's start building homes. The demand is there, I believe. Now, with interest rates coming down, another great stat that the chief economist at TD brought up, which is only 27% of first-time home buyers are ready to buy a house now because the other ones are just too nervous. And the reasoning, cost of living is too high, affordability is too high, and interest rates are too high.
And
Go figure.
And job security, too.
Well, job
right?
security.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, the one thing in Toronto, they don't talk too much about job security. We talk about it in Ottawa because obviously there's federal service cuts that are happening, and those are going to impact their city much greater than they are the rest of the country. So I think it's a bigger topic here than it is the rest of the country. AI is the concern the rest of the country, where in Ottawa, I think we're concerned more about federal job cuts.
Yeah. Have a question, head over to realestateandmortgageshow.com. You can submit it there. We'll answer it on the air. Or give us a call at 521-TALK, 521-8255. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody.
Frank, I forgot to tell you this in the last segment. The bigwigs at Bell Media actually asked me when I was coming back. And I said, well, why is that? And they said, well, the ratings last week were terrible without you. So,
Dora, you were awesome last week.
No, that's the best
fantastic.
part. They said Dora was amazing, but the rest was just a gong show, So they said, when you come back,
another nasty email from listeners, saying, Paul, stop talking over Frank. Stop saying.
Realestateandmortgageshow.com, everybody.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
We get some really interesting emails, don't we, coming into the show? We definitely do.
And great questions, actually. I'm very impressed with some of the questions that we get on our website, on the Real Estate and Mortgage Show. Like really well thought out questions of people that have real concerns that I think a lot of people struggle with and struggle with the answers to. And, I had a client yesterday who, and Paul, you always say, hey, having doors is great. So a young couple, they now have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, and they bought their first home in 2017, lived in it. Then they bought another home, but they kept it. Again, they were lucky enough to buy in 2021, where they kept their townhouse, rented it out, and the mortgage is coming due this year. And at the same time, they bought so they went from a townhouse to a semi-detached. And their semi-detached, they used the down payment because, again, the value was very high. And she didn't even realize. I said to her, she goes, Frank, we got to keep money outside for capital gains. I said, well, I don't think you're going to have a lot of capital gains. And she goes, wow, we bought the house in 2017. We paid like $340 for it. When we got it appraised in 2021, it was like $650. So we're setting all that money aside. I said, but didn't you live in it until 2021? She said, yeah. I said, well, you realize that the capital gains only starts in 2021 when you move out. She goes, it does? I said, of course it does. I said, I hope you got an appraisal or something. She goes, yeah, because we refinanced it and we took the equity out of that house to buy the new one. I said, well, there's your out right there. So in 2021, that house was worth $630, and she feels that when they sell, it'll be $650.
Right.
So therefore, I said, your capital gains are going to be on all of $20,000. That changed everything for her because they were planning on probably having to set aside between $50,000 and $75,000 for for the capital gains, and all of a sudden she doesn't have to do that. It just changed the whole conversation.
And we take it for granted that people know this information, right? But so one thing that's really important, and we've said this many, many times on the show, one thing you just said that's super important there is she got an appraisal when she turned it into a rental.
But she did it because she financed it, but not everybody finances, right?
And
that's
people don't
why it's
do
so
it.
important.
And people just don't do it. And you don't pay capital gains on your principal residence. You pay capital gains once that becomes a rental. So if you bought that place in 2017 and you're living in it all the way to 2021, there's no capital gains. But in 2021, if you go buy another property and you're going to turn your existing property into a rental, you need to get it appraised at that point because you're only going to pay capital gains on when you turned it into a rental to when you sell it. So you don't have to pay capital gains on the whole amount. So make sure if you're ever turning your investment property into a rental that you get an appraisal. Sorry, your principal residence into a rental, that you get an appraisal because you have to know the value of it for capital gains when you turn that into a rental. And the problem is most people don't. And then what happens is sometimes I'll get a call and say, can you go back and tell me what my house was worth in 2022? And I'm like, I can try. I mean, I could give my best guess, but it's not going to be a formal appraisal. They may take it, they may not. So
and you're talking about CRA, right? You're not talking now about anybody else. Now you're talking about CRA trying to convince CRA that
in
that
2021
the report
it was
that
worth
Paul gave or any of the other realtor gave is actually accurate. Where if you had an accredited appraisal in your hand from somebody who's an accredited appraiser, CRA is not going to question that because now they've got somebody who's actually that's what they do for a living
at the correct time.
Doing it
for in this example 2021.
Correct. It's $400 or $500, but you got to do it.
That was my next question. How much is an appraisal?
$400 or $500 for an appraisal. So we're not talking about a lot of money. And trust me, when it comes to capital gains, it makes total sense to have that appraised.
Well, if it's the difference between paying capital gains on $20K versus $80K.
Big difference.
But I've also seen some people buy themselves an investment property, have it for 5 years, and then decide they want to live in it.
Again, same thing.
Again, get that appraisal because you'll only pay capital gains from when you bought it to when you actually started to live
investment.
In it. So there's people always forget that, and we take it for granted that people know this, but you can't take that for granted.
Oh, and so even if you're flipping it back, like if you've been renting a property for whatever reason and you decide you're moving into it or a family member's moving into it.
Now, 9 times out of 10, when you move into it and sell it 5, 6, 7 years down the road, there's not going to be any red flags. But just to be safe, you might as well get that appraisal.
Right.
So you're paying capital gains only on a small amount of that value. But 9 times out of 10, you're going to move into it. You're not.
Just get the appraisal.
Just get it. Just get it.
It's
not
easy. Worth the stress of having to redo something that's 4 or 5 years. Like Paul doesn't remember what he wore 2 days ago. Never mind what a house was worth 4 or 5 years ago.
I wore nothing 2 days ago. Actually, just a bathing suit.
Whoa. Yeah.
That's not this kind of show, Paul.
Yes,
we gotta keep it clean here.
What's the market like, Paul? Like is it? Again, I was at this conference and it's interesting in Toronto. Boy,
Tough.
They are absolutely besides themselves. Like they're hoping. But honestly, I mean, this building, this HST rebate is good. It's not going to do that much to Toronto. It's not going to drive it that much because you can't build for under $1 million in Toronto anyway. Now, again, the HST is on that first million, and then there's another category above it. But still, affordability, and that's the problem. I think it's going to be tough for people. But I think in Ottawa,
our market's,
like to think we're going to see some nice.
Yeah. So here's what we're seeing right now is, first of all, the numbers for April will come out. Well, next show is
too soon. May 2nd.
We might have the numbers next show, and it's going to be interesting because I know as a company we've had a really, really good month. Like we'll probably end the month at about 75 sales or something like that, which is a very good April. I mean, our best.
I have been smoking busy shooting properties,
which is great.
The last couple of weeks,
which means listings are up. Listings are up, which is great. Our sales are way up, and so I think when the numbers come out, I'm hoping the real estate market mirrors that as well. Because right now we're seeing, number of sales in the single family market is down. The number of sales in the townhouse market is actually up. the number of sales in the condo market is getting slaughtered, like absolutely slaughtered. So we'll see as a city as a whole where we're going to be. But I think it's been a very, very good April for us, and I think it's going to be quite a strong April for the real estate market. But we have a lot of ground to make up. I mean, Jan, Feb, and March were not great months for everybody in the real estate market. So we have a lot of ground to make up, and I hope April makes up some of that ground. I mean, we look at the average sale price, it's down. We see the number of sales is way down. So we
days on market is up.
Days on market is up. Inventory's up. So, the numbers are, I believe at the end of April, are probably trending in the right direction. But Jan, Feb, and March were quite tough markets. We haven't had a spring market yet. So hopefully we start getting that spring market. I know we've been super busy on the listing side. We're way up on the listings. Yeah. But it's the sales side has been a little bit slow throughout the city of Ottawa.
It's all about pricing. We'll get back to that after the break.
Oh, yeah.
Have a question, head over to realestateandmortgageshow.com or give us a call at 521-TALK, 521-8255. We'll be right back.